Yeah, so my name is Sabrin, and I'm from Eritrea. Yeah, one of the most isolated, suppressed, and poorest countries in the world, unfortunately. So, hands up, those of you who know about Eritrea or have heard of it. Okay, so I see there's a lot of hands not up, so tonight let me share a little bit about that place, my first home. So Eritrea is a northeast African country on the Red Sea coast. It shares borders with countries like Sudan, Ethiopia, and Djibouti. The country fought a very brutal 30-year-long war of independence and became its own 26 years ago. But from that day on, Eritrea has progressively descended into a one-man dictatorship, meaning that there's no independent civil society organizations, no media outlets, no independent courts, no religious freedoms, and no civil liberties. Every month, more than 5,000 Eritreans flee Eritrea. That number is more than those fleeing Syria, and according to the United Nations, there is no sustainable solution to the outflow of refugees. So you may ask why so many people are leaving Eritrea. Well, here's a snapshot of what life is like. There is a total ban on export and import, meaning the country is totally financially crippled. When you reach a certain age, there's a mandatory national service, and it's described as modern-day slavery by the United Nations. Your service is for an indefinite amount of time. You're paid very little, and you either serve as a soldier or work on public and private projects. So, yeah. In addition, there is torture and humiliation that is very common in the army. Whether you're forced to serve food and drinks to your superiors or you're getting buried with only your head sticking out. In addition to that, the prisons in Eritrea come in the form of underground containers filled with lice and total darkness. So looking at Eritrea from the outside, you'll think everything is fine because how happy the people are portrayed. If you visited Eritrea on a day when the president is out, or if you see it in the news, people are shown as flocking to the president. They go to him with joy, not with fear. Women will be often shown taking off their jewelry and giving it to him, and people donating money to him. And people will chant his name. But don't let this fool you. These things are very orchestrated shows by the government to try and fool the outside world and to hide the truth of the country. Because failure to show public affection to the government or to the president can land you in jail or without coupons that people rely on for food and everyday necessities. Because in Eritrea, everybody lives on a ration. Okay. So in contrast to that life, the thousands of Eritreans fleeing and crossing the Mediterranean Sea or risking their lives for hope of a better life makes sense. So personally for me, I lived in Eritrea until I was 8 years old. And even as a child, I was aware that my time in Eritrea was limited. One of my earliest memories is of my cousin and her friend hiding in a concealed underground basement in our home. And the military police raiding our house looking for them. It was actually very scary to watch them look around the house because the basement is just on the floor. And the floor has tiles in it, and then there's a metal handle where you would pick it up and then it would show. So just watching them and thinking, are they going to see that, was very scary. So why were they hiding? So they were set to complete their final year of secondary education, which is done in a military unit in Eritrea, where the study is integrated by arm training. So I knew that the same fate awaited my siblings and myself eventually. So when my mother made this decision to leave Eritrea and flee to a land that she doesn't know, the decision made total sense to me and wasn't a surprise at all. So, for the first time, my mother, who was married at 17 and has never been anywhere alone, had to face the world alone in a foreign land where she didn't speak the language, but that was the only way to survive. So after 4 years of waiting, we were finally given a humanitarian visa to Australia and arrived in Melbourne in 2008. And since that time, my siblings and I had the chance to get an education and find work and create a life in Australia. For me personally, that means studying university. Right now, I'm doing a Bachelor in Engineering in Swinburne University. And I'm also interning with Lendlease, working on the level crossing removal project. So my life has totally changed. Yeah. So I'd like to conclude by telling the story of the hummingbird, as narrated by celebrated Kenyan environmental activist and Nobel Prize winner Wangari Maathai. The story tells of a huge forest that is consumed by a raging fire, while all the animals stand overwhelmed with fear and hopelessness as they watch their homes burn. But out of all those strong animals that can create big change, a little hummingbird decides to do something. So it goes to the stream and fills its tiny beak with a drop of water and flies back to the fire and just keeps doing that, just keeps going back and forth with one drop of water. When all the animals see her doing that, they laugh and they say, "There's no point, you're too small and the fire is too big. What you're doing makes no difference." But without stopping, the hummingbird tells them, "Well, at least I'm doing something. I'm doing my best." All great change is the result of so many little actions. So tonight, I urge everyone to be a hummingbird and do whatever you can to make the life of others a little bit better and spread awareness of all people suffering. Thank you so much.